Hello, this is Brett Wild, and this is the X737, and I'm between Cleveland and O'Hare in Chicago. And the purpose of this flight is not to show you a cold and dark startup and climb and everything, but it's to show you, or it's for me to also learn how I can make a change in my star on the X737 FMC. Now, I've tried it before by just doing a straight change of the star in the FMC, but I'm going to try something that my buddy Steve in Connecticut has suggested works. So let me just show you where I'm at right now. Whoops, here's my route, plotted out on Sky Vector. We're in here, and I would be landing to the west, but let's say that there is a wind shift. You know, the Cubs are in the World Series for the first time since '45, so huge wind coming off the lake, and now we need to land to the east. So instead of this star here, which is called Watson 3, we're going to use one called ESPO. Let me just show you what that looks like. This is a relatively new one to Chicago. And, whoops, there we go. So we're going to be flying along this direction. Here's Watson. And before we get to a place where we would turn west and land heading west, we're going to make a westward turn, fly parallel to the runway that we're going to be landing on, and then make a turn and come back towards the airport. So we're going to make a change to the ESPO star, and we'll do that right now. So according to Steve, and here's my legs right now, we go off the managed route by selecting a heading that's in the appropriate direction. Hit the heading selector. Make sure we're on altitude hold. And now, so we're off LNAV. So now we go ahead and make our change. So our arrival is now going to be ESPO. We'll use a Watson transition, and we're going to be landing to the east. So we'll go with 10C. Back to our legs. So you can see the ESPO, and we've got one discontinuity that we'll take care of. Go back and make sure we're good to go. So now the next question is, what does that look like? Let's go ahead now that it's in and go back to our LNAV and VNAV. And there's Watson. So that was a smooth transition. And it looks like we are indeed headed towards Watson. We've maintained our speed and altitude. So previously I tried that without going off of the managed flight plan, just simply entering a new star, and the plane basically went into a tailspin. So, thanks to Steve for an explanation on how to enter a new star midway through the flight. So we'll go ahead and make our approach into Chicago, and I'll get back to you a little bit later and continue our video. So as we come up on our this is, I think, our top of descent. It doesn't really say, but looking at our FMC, right after Makita comes our top of descent. So I'm curious what our, besides our star here, what is our actual approach to the runway look like? And I think it's 10C. And we've got a lot of waypoints. It goes probably way out west, quite a number of miles. But according to our FMC, we are coming up on, or we will be intercepting the localizer at Ruta. So I want to make sure I'm under the guide slope. I'm a little concerned because there's some tight turns and some short distances, and I really need to make sure that we get below that guide slope. Let's see, and we need to be at 108.95. So I can dial that in here. Okay, there we go. Whoops. And we're going to put it on both radios. That way I can use both of the autopilots. And it looks like our top of descent has begun. I'm just going to go ahead and dial that all the way down to 1,000, just to make sure that if I'm distracted, that the airplane will continue to descend below that top of descent. I'm sorry, below that guide slope. So we'll, it's hard to really see this. This is the missed approach, but we'll be going west here and then make a turn back towards the airport. So I'll also want to make sure that we slow the airplane down accordingly. Over northern Indiana. Looks like Gary here. And the very southern tip of Lake Michigan. Anyway, back in a minute. So we're flying between Midway and O'Hare, so just north of Midway, just south of O'Hare. And again, we're flying parallel to the runways that we're going to be landing on, so we're going to come back around here. Like I said, or might have said, this is a new star called Espo. It goes right over our house, actually, so if we get winds out of the east, we get a lot of traffic. So just check our progress here in terms of our descent. See, where should we be when we get to Monix? Well, we need to, at Giorgio, we need to be at 10,000 and change. Seems kind of high, doesn't it? But again, my concern is that in this short turn here, and knowing this airplane will turn well before Possum, so we want to make sure we get below this guide slope for 10C. Take a look out of the aircraft. Midway. And there's O'Hare, and here's our runway right here. I'm going to go ahead and turn on our landing lights. Notice our speed bug is dropping down to 250 in preparation for that 10,000 mark. But I think in order to make that altitude, I might want to be a little bit more aggressive in slowing us down. So go ahead and hit the speed intervention. I think that's what we decided it meant. And start slowing down. Let's go with 220. Notice we've got our guide slope bug, and flashing over here we get a localizer bug. So as soon as we make that turn back towards the runway, I'll go ahead and hit the approach button. Here's DuPage Airport here, where I learned to fly many years ago. Here's the Fox River. And you might have heard of Fermi Lab. Here's the ring, the accelerator lab there. I was hoping to get our speed down, but I guess the descent itself has kept the speed up. Maybe I can go with, hit the speed brake here, slow us down. And I'm going to go ahead and try the approach button as soon as we get around the corner here. See if I can get a... No, it's not going to give me a second one yet. So it's looking for the localizer and guide slope. And again, we need to be below 4,000. And it doesn't look like we're going to make it. Go ahead and dial this down. So notice that we're probably going to have to try and cheat a little bit here. See if we can't get down to that guide slope. So in this aircraft, it's really important that you have an approach that takes you out far enough so that you can get the aircraft down to that altitude and under the guide slope. So I probably should have added some waypoints into my FMC, but of course by this point ATC is vectoring you in anyway. See if we can get slowed down here. Get a couple notches of flaps. Alright, we've got both autopilots on, and it looks like we're gonna rescue this. We do look a little off here. Some localizers in X-plane can be a little off. No, we're looks pretty good. All right, let's get the auto brake set. So, in order to make that guide slope, then a little intervention with the vertical speed. So we've got flare showing up on our FMA. And I'll look for auto land here. Finally, full flaps. Auto land. And it looks like we're well above our guide slope, so don't know what happened.
100, 50, 30, 20, 10.
There we go. I had to kind of coax it down a little bit. Get back in the center of the runway. Okay, before we enter that taxiway, I want to make sure we get the plane cleaned up, flaps and spoilers disarmed, and get all these lights turned off and go with a taxi light instead. So that concludes our flight. And hopefully we all learned something, making that smooth transition to a different star than what was programmed originally in our FMC, and then how to adjust for being a little too high on that guide slope. So thanks for watching.